Hello everyone, welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where I've got the TNT takes for you on Traitors USA Season 3, Episode 4. That is right, I'm back to talk about all of the action here on the channel, and what an episode. What an episode. From the beginning to the end, it had us starting on a high with the whole coffin ceremony and with 3 targets being selected to go into these coffins, and then also with that absolute showdown at the end of this, where Boston Rob and Bob the Drag Queen went head to head, traitor v traitor. But let's start off in the beginning of the episode here, where they have the coffins. They get Sierra, Nikki, and Jeremy into these coffins. The traitors had to select one of them to leave the game, and Jeremy was quite vocal and disclosed to Bob that he thought Danielle was a traitor. So if you remember that from the previous episode, Bob ran to Danielle, told her about this, and Danielle wanted to make sure that there was not going to be anybody in the house that are going to target her or that's going to throw suspicion out there that she potentially could be a traitor. So Jeremy's plea to say, if I stay, I'll work with you, was clearly directed at Danielle. I don't think he would have stuck true to those words. And Danielle didn't want to have a really proven game player like Jeremy in the game, someone that has won a show like Survivor before. So I do think for Danielle, it was probably the right decision to take her out. I found it really interesting, though, to see how Caroline really struggled with this idea that she had to let Tony go and she had to let Jeremy go so easily here in the beginning of the game. She spoke about the whole fact that when you play Survivor, they say that you become a part of the Survivor family, and now she is basically eliminating her family one after the other here in this game, and she's really struggling with that. And I'll be honest, in Caroline's original season, I wasn't always the biggest fan of hers. I can see why she's someone that probably would be in the conversation for a Survivor 50 if she hasn't pissed Jeff off too much now that she's doing other shows. But she was never really my cup of tea. She sometimes can be a little bit over the top, and I know some people really like that, but I have to say, so far on Traitors, she is probably the most likable out of the 3 traitors for me personally. I really do like the fact that she is trying to play this game with Survivor. She's trying to play with some loyalty, and probably in my mind, I feel like the show is setting it up for Caroline to outlast both Danielle and Rob in this game, who I think both of them have come out of the gates playing this game too aggressively. And if you play this game too aggressively, similar to how Bob the Drag Queen played the game, you normally will get caught before the end of the game. It's such a tough game where you've got to find the balance about being out there but also not being out there. Dan last season, for instance, didn't put himself out there enough, and that made it suspicious for someone like him, such a big game player, not to really play the game aggressively. Obviously, no worries with big game players this season not playing the game in a big way, because all of them have come out of the gate swinging. Also wanted to talk about the daily mission here. I actually really liked the daily mission where they had to go up this hill with these statues. They have 18 people in the game, I think is what they said, and 10 statues that needed to be built, but only 10 of them would get heads on them, which means that 8 people ultimately is still going to be up potentially for elimination in the evening after this banishment that took place. So strategically, I feel like the Traitors show is evolving. There's more stakes involved. I like the fact that there's more shields early in the game when there potentially is certain players that could be really threatening to the Traitors. If they go for the shield really hard out, there's now extra stakes. It's not just about winning the money for them. They could potentially get some safety so that they can't get taken out of this game. So I really like that, and I also like the fact that it brings a different social dynamic into the game. Like, there was a lot of talk about the men not really giving the women any of these shields, and that they were kind of outrunning the women up and down this hill. Also, wanted to give a shout out to Bob H. I never really watched The Biggest Loser, but I'm aware of what that show's about, and obviously having been such a physical fit person, a fitness instructor, and then having gone through the heart surgery and everything like that, or having had a heart attack, I believe it was, that was quite a, I know some people say they don't always want to hear the soppy stories, but man, I can only imagine what it would feel like to be this really capable human being that could do all these things. He could probably beat all of them on this track. to go out there and sort of struggle for breath going up there. I really did feel for the guy. At least he did get a shield in the end, so that is going to be something positive for him heading into the next round. What an emotional journey, and really shouting for that guy. Hope he goes deep in the game. I'm starting to get to know a few more other players. Also, Gabby is very interesting. She's got some theories, throwing out early here in this episode that Danielle went into the bookshelf, went behind the bookshelf, and that she potentially heard her voice, and that at some point they needed to talk and mingle about who they were going to take out in the game in the coffin ceremony. I thought that was interesting. She's not pushing it too hard, but her suspicion is looking in the right direction. And then obviously Danielle trying to pivot it over to someone like Gabby in the game, talking to Derek. And I was very complimentary of Derek's ability to play the game, and realized that potentially one of the three of them who came into the game late could be a traitor. But I was surprised by the fact that he went in a completely different direction in this episode, similar to Wes. They didn't really get the right read on who potentially could be a traitor, even though Wes did redeem himself by the end of the episode, where he mentioned that maybe Boston Rob was a little bit too sure of who this traitor was, and he was kind of trying to put it out there that Rob could be a traitor without directly saying Rob is a traitor, which shows the experience of someone like Wes in a game like Traitors. And I think he's someone that, if Boston Rob doesn't watch out, could be coming for him at some point in this game. So it was very interesting to see Wes's social political game, and how he is sort of moving in the shadows and trying to point some shade towards Boston Rob. But let's talk about this big move from Boston Rob here in this episode. What an absolute cracker here. At the end of the mission, Bob the drag queen throws a throwaway comment out there that, hey, one of the three people that came into the game late, we all thought that one of you could be a traitor. And Boston Rob immediately goes into the offense. Clearly, Bob the Drag Queen has not seen Boston Rob's gameplay on Survivor. Boston Rob, especially in the later seasons, were known to have a bulldozer type of strategy where he would go hell to leather to try and get someone out and get the votes. And even in the season that he won, he had this really strange cult-like following where people would work with him and they were not allowed to speak to the other team. He's got a very aggressive way of playing any of these game shows, which has obviously worked for him in his earlier seasons when he played with his wife, and also when he won a season for himself. But I also think that's something that made him come unstuck or undone later on in Survivor. And I wonder, in a cast like this one, where there are big game players, Danielle Ray is this big game player in her own right. You've got people like Derek, you've got Wes, big game players that potentially will not want to play his game if it's going to work this time. Like, that strategy has been found out when he's played against other All-Stars. The season that he won, the season that he was able to get this cult-like following, was the season where he played with only new players in the game. And if there wasn't other great players in this season, like the ones I've just mentioned, even a Brittany, for instance, then maybe Rob would get away with this strategy. But I feel like he's playing a little bit too hard, too fast, and that he is going to get found out. Like Carolyn said here, this is way too early to be doing this. This is way too early to go after fellow traitors. So I feel like Carolyn has got a finger on the pulse, and she's playing probably the best game out of the traitors. And if you told me in the beginning of the season that was where I was going to lean towards, and that I was going to say Carolyn would be the best traitor, I would have probably laughed in your face. But she is doing a phenomenal job at sitting back and letting these other traitors sink themselves. So I wouldn't be surprised if both Boston Rob and Danielle goes out in the following episodes, especially if they start taking shots at each other. And Caroline ending up in that spot with maybe one or two other players there with her if she does end up recruiting for traitors. But overall, my thoughts so far on this season is that it has been a fun season to watch. I'm fully entertained. I'm hoping that it's not one of those seasons that burn out quickly with so many big players not afraid to speak up at the round table. Wes, Derek, that could at some point turn suspicion their way. But if they do get Boston Rob out early and he is a traitor, hopefully the cast would think there's no way all three of them could be traitors. There was probably just one selected to come into the game later on. That's my thoughts so far about this episode and about the season, Traitors, so far. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think Boston Rob is playing a phenomenal game? What did you think of the showdown between Boston Rob and Bob? Because man, oh man, it was heated. I was sitting there eating my rice chips, barbecue rice chips, and enjoying every single moment of that showdown. One thing is for certain, they've casted really big villainous characters this season, and I was kind of shocked to see Danielle be so emotional about the fact that she had to let Bob go in this moment. Clearly they must have made a very strong connection here very early on in the game. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit a like on this video if you do like this content and you'd like to see more, and subscribe. It's the way I know that you really want to see more of these short form coverage videos on Traitors. But for now, I'm out. See you guys next time.